And people usually run away from philosophical essays, so we are discussing this essay today, specifically this essay, which seemed to be a philosophical essay and which was asked in 2018 essay paper of UPSC. The title read is, "A good life is one inspired by love and guided by knowledge." So I will not only discuss the structure and I will not only explain you the essay this time, but as requested by many of you, I would also provide you the script for this essay, which you can use as a reference, and you can also write your own script and do practice for this essay. So this essay, "A good life is one inspired by love and guided by knowledge." What does it mean? Basically it means that the two things, love and knowledge, they both are required in our life. The love, it provides us inspiration, it provides us motivation, it provides us energy, and knowledge, it provides us guidance. It illuminates our path. It tells us what is the best way to reach that goal. So in this way, both love and knowledge are important for a good life. This is what an essay means. And now we will give some examples from some diverse examples to elaborate this essay. We will begin, I have begun by picking up an individual's example, a micro level example of a mother who sends her child to school and she ensures that her child goes to school. She loves her child, but still she sends him away from her because she knows the importance of schooling and education. And even when she sends her child, the child is being taken by a rickshaw puller, and she knows that it's very scorching heat, it's the month of May, and in this heat a person may have sunstroke or heat stroke. So she gives 2 bottles of water, one for the son and also for the rickshaw puller. So in this way we see how her life is full of love. Now this is an individual example. We will pick up some examples from history which most of the people know, our examiner would also know, and then we will pick up some ideas and themes from economy, maybe politics, and thus we will move from micro to macro. We will move from present to past, then again to present, and then finally we will give our interpretation. We will also discuss the relationship between love and knowledge, and to add some extra flavor, to get something extra, we will also discuss how knowledge and love, some people believe they are not, they don't go in sync, that how they have a dichotomous relationship, that love can take place only when you know less about someone. So we will contradict that statement, and we will say finally that love and knowledge, they both help each other, they both are complementary to each other, and both are needed in our life. So let's begin with this essay. This is the script of the essay. A good life is one inspired by love and guided by knowledge. So as I said, I started with this lady, this name, I took up a name. Standing in her balcony, Sudha daily waves her hands to her 5-year-old son as he leaves for the school, ferried by a rickshaw puller Ramji. It is the month of May and scorching heat radiates both from the dark roads and the bright sky. Every day Sudha gives not 1 but 2 bottles of water to her son, one for himself and the other for Ramji. Her mind knows the fatality of heat waves, and her heart has compassion for all human beings. Does she stand to gain anything by filling that extra bottle of water? Or would she lose if she doesn't? Ramdhir has never asked for such help. She is bounded neither by legal contract nor is she obliged to help the poor man. Rather, it is her inner conscience which suggests her to engage in such acts of love and compassion. For people like Sudha, we can say that their lives are inspired by love and guided by knowledge. She is full of love for her family also. The mother inside Sudha, driven by a deep sense of attachment, may want to keep her dear child in front of her eyes all hours of the day, but the worldly wisdom tells her the importance of schooling and education. She does, against her instincts, herself sends her child away from her sight. Tomorrow she might even send the apple of her eye to a distant city or country for his higher education. His life is thus guided by Her life is thus guided by knowledge. So this is how we begin. You can see the beginning is a very important part of an essay, one of the most important part. You could have also begun by using some quote, if you remember, but usually I see that it's difficult to recall a quotation which is very relevant to the theme of the essay. So one of the best ways to use a story, because a story gives us freedom to draft it in a way so as to cast maximum relevance with the theme of the essay. So this way I've used this beginning. You could have made it your different beginning also. Now then we go on to explain that thus both love and knowledge are needed in life. Love inspires us, it gives us energy and motivation. Love makes us set lofty goals for ourselves and others. Knowledge illuminates the path and helps us to stay on that way to reach that goal. Now see friends, so far till here I have used a story, but here we explain what we mean by the essay, what we understand by the essay. This explanation which should follow our story or our quotation is very important to send signal to the examiner to make him believe that yes, we very well understand this essay. Now we will give example of Mahatma Gandhi, which everybody knows. That Mahatma Gandhi, history is replete with such examples. Mahatma Gandhi, out of love, wanted freedom for his countrymen. He wanted to free them from bondage of colonization. But his awareness of world history and his understanding of the unique socio-political situations of our country helped him devise a proper strategy for freedom and movement. The philosophy of non-violence helped maximum people to contribute in freedom struggle and weakened the moral ground of colonial police state. Thus, Mahatma Gandhi could succeed not only because he had love for countrymen, but also he knew how to achieve freedom because he had wisdom, because he had knowledge. And similarly, we will give another example of Baba Saheb Ambedkar, who had love for Dalits. Sorry for this. Ambedkar had love for Dalits and other weaker sections of society, but he also used his knowledge of law and public life to help draft a constitution which would guarantee the rights of people. He and his team, with their expertise of law, wrote a constitution which could sustain democracy unfailingly, while constitution in other boring countries collapsed out of their weakness. Thus, see, Baba Saheb Ambedkar, we're using this example to show that both love and knowledge were important, and that's why we sort of worship him today. In contemporary times, an example from our contemporary times, Abdul Kalam not just loved his country but also gained knowledge to help her achieve new strides in space and missile development programs. So now we started from present, we went to past, we collected some examples from past, then we moved back to present in contemporary times. And now friends, after showing these examples, we will now move towards a little abstraction. We will talk a little bit of theoretical stuff. Not theoretical in the sense, we will be talking about generalized things. Let's understand the relationship between love and knowledge with an analogy at a level of a country. See, so far we have been given particular examples. Now we need to show that we can also think about larger stuff, about macro level understanding we have to show. Love for our country might want us to see beautiful dreams for her and set a goal that our country should become superpower someday. That love here is providing an inspiration. Pretty good. But the answer to how to achieve this goal of superpower can be provided by knowledge. And the knowledge tells us that a country can't prosper unless its population is properly nourished, educated and employed. Thus, we will get a direction to move and we would start programs to develop our human resource. Thus, knowledge is providing us a guidance. Both love and knowledge are complementing each other and pumping richness in the life of our country. So see friends, so far we have taken particular examples. Now we are moving from particular examples to macro level, that is larger level, to broad generalization, and we are putting this in the background, in the context of our country's development. Because that is ultimately why we are striving to get success in this exam. This shows that we have a concern and we have understanding of our economic and socio-economic situation of our country. We now proceed. It is also necessary to ensure that the knowledge we have is a healthy knowledge based on truth and on good values. Otherwise, bad knowledge can make love toxic. For example, Nazis loved their country immensely, but their mind was poisoned with a knowledge system which systematically indoctrinated them to believe in their superiority and in hatred towards Jews. The results were disastrous not only for the Germany but for the whole world. That is, we have to ensure that knowledge should have values, and otherwise love will become toxic, as it became in the case of in the case of Germany, where their immense love for their country or nationalism, it created conditions for world war and persecution of Jews. Similarly, in absence of love, knowledge alone will be like a devil. Science without values gave rise to weapons of mass destruction. Technology has often been used to cause widespread destruction, has been used to cause widespread bloodshed in wars. Mankind today sits on the brink of self-annihilation, and thus it is in need of love more than it ever was. However, some people take a completely different opinion on the relationship between love and knowledge. Now we are adding some extra points here. They believe that there is a dichotomy between the two, and these two are poles apart. For example, to love someone, we ought to ignore or stop our awareness from focusing at his or her flaws. They say that love knows no calculation, it knows no rationality, and thus there is a famous proverb, love is blind. But that is not what we believe. However, this is an incomplete inference. Love which is based on superficial appearance might be hesitant to confront the revelations made by knowledge. If love is based on superficial appearance, then it may be hesitant to acknowledge, to realize what knowledge is telling us. But true love which goes beyond skin permeates till great depth, and it accepts both the strengths and follies of a person. So now we are again talking about we are again moving back to micro level, talking about love in people, among couples, among families. Though not exactly micro, we are somewhere hanging between macro and micro. That is at a larger level and the middle and the bottom level. We are somewhere in the middle of it. Thus, knowledge not only helps find love its way, it also acts as a mirror and helps in filtering true love from false love. See, true love, false love, differentiation. What makes this differentiation possible? It is a knowledge which helps us differentiate the true love from the false love. In fact, at times, knowledge even helps us discover new reasons to expand our love and not shrink it. Knowledge will help us find new reasons to love someone. For example, education informs an urban child about the hard work needed to produce a crop by a farmer. This urban child, when he grows up tomorrow, will have greater respect towards the rural farmers, obviously. Now that's why knowledge is important. Education is important to inform the urban children about how much efforts the farmers put into raise a crop. And once we inform them, then they will have greater love and respect for the farmers. Now we will bring up some elements from climate change, global warming, some issues which we face as a global society. Most of the severe challenges which we face in society can be solved on the basis of both love and knowledge. For example, the impending climate change and global warming is an issue which requires us to discover our love for nature on one hand and discover newer and better technologies to reduce pollution and emission of harmful gases. See, we will preserve our environment when we love it. But how will we be able to preserve our environment? When we know some technologies which can help us reduce our emissions. So that is why both knowledge and both love are complementing each other at this level also, at such large level also. Let's move further. Similarly, the growing inequality in the country as well as the world needs people to believe in love and compassion and devise new ways for a sustainable and equitable economic growth. Wow, we have talked about the economic inequality in our country. So see, we also talked about environment, we also talked about economic inequality, and now we will talk about some more general thing. That this postmodern world means the world which has seen a lot of modernity, has led to a paradox. Present generation has far more to possess than the previous generation. Still, the stress is not less, but far more than in earlier time. We are more stressful. We have more things than our ancestors possessed, but still we are more stressful. Why? An example of this is suicide rate is increasing in almost all communities. This is because love and humanity has receded and has been replaced by consumerism. So as I often say, bring in some elements of consumerism, globalization, postmodernism, stress and all these things, because these are the issues which everyone is facing irrespective of his or her background. Now we had been building up, we had been preparing to end this essay. Now this was pre-conclusion, this was the conclusion, where we will make one more reference, the last reference to the place where we started. While we need to spread a good, healthy and empowering knowledge, we also need people to start believing in the power of compassion. We need more people like Sudha. See my friends, we started with the example of Sudha, and when we relate it again in the conclusion, we are able to show that a conclusion has been reached. The essay is moving towards this conclusion, and this conclusion is not abrupt, is not unexpected. We need more people like Sudha who don't live their lives just for themselves. It is in our hand whether we make this planet a barren, cold desert devoid of any love and warmth, or a flowering garden full of happiness, love and brotherhood. That is, it is in our hand whether we make this planet a beautiful planet or a very planet devoid of any life. That is, whether we push this planet towards confrontations, conflict, stress and all those things, or we create brotherhood, love, happiness. So it is in our hands. So in this way, this essay is there, and thus we end with this essay here. So friends, one thing, if you notice here, some good language, some good words I've tried to use in the end. Remember that your maximum attention should be on the beginning and the end. The introduction and conclusion, they are most important, because first impression and last impression, these are the most important thing to determine how much marks you get, besides your content, obviously. In this essay, if you notice, we took up example from both micro level. We took up an example of a woman. Then we gave up examples of Gandhi, with whom everybody knows. We gave examples of Ambedkar, who everybody knows. Then we gave example of Abdul Kalam Azad from our present time. Then we talked about climate. We talked about inequality existing. When we talked about climate and we talked about economic inequality, we were able to show that we have understanding of our society and how we can place a message which an essay is giving in the context of our society. So we are not talking about abstract philosophy here. What we are talking about are things which are actually very relevant to our society, which are very important for our society. Yeah, somewhere we also talk, because this essay seems like philosophical, we try to think about it, we try to create a relationship between love and knowledge. And when we were creating relationship between love and knowledge, remember this thing, we were not completely abstract, we were not completely philosophical, because our so-called philosophical interpretation of love and knowledge and the relationship between them was rooted on examples which are very factual. Thus we were striking a balance between facts on the one hand, between observations on the one hand, and philosophical interpretations on the other hand. So that is what you have to do in essay. Make a balance. Don't just, when a philosophical essay is given to you, don't just write completely about abstract ideas. This is not your test of philosophy. You have to make a balance between facts, between observations, and between interpretations and abstract ideas and abstract generalizations. Try to create diversity, try to create a flow, and try to enrich your essay in a way that it becomes interesting for the reader and he is not able to leave the essay somewhere in the beginning. If you see, our essay had a structure, but the structure is invisible. You don't realize there is an introduction, there is a conclusion, there is a body, there is a flow, there is a structure, which are very important, but these things are invisible. We don't make these things explicitly visible to the examiner that, see, this is conclusion, this is introduction, or this is the structure point 1, structure point 2. Because what I say, structure should be organic. Structure should be something which is felt, not something which is thrown in the face of the reader. So when you write with a flow, when you cover up as many points, when you make a balance between facts and philosophy, when you take up examples from diverse background, And when you are able to show that no matter how much philosophical a statement is, it is having relevance to our country also, then definitely you will be able to impress the examiner. One more thing, two words I often use, micro and macro. I hope you understand them. Micro means particular examples, like Sudha is a particular examples. Macro means when you're talking about climate change, inequality, these are at a larger level. So I started with micro level and move towards macro. You could also start from macro and come up with at micro level, that is from micro to macro, from smaller to larger level stuff you can do. But here I prefer starting from micro level, from lower level, because the theme of the essay seemed to suggest that a good life. It wanted to give an impression as if it's talking about life of an individual. That's why I picked up an example of Sudha at an individual level. That's why I didn't take up the example of Mahatma Gandhi or Ambedkar or Abdul Kalam right in the beginning. I took up an example of a particular woman whom everybody can relate to. That is why I started with the micro. This is because so that there is no scope for the examiner to think that even if he is very rigid and very strict in marking, even then I am able to show to him that yes, I do understand what you are talking about, and the other things which I am talking are related to what the essay is asking for. So I think we can close this now. I hope this was beneficial. If you have any doubts, if you have any problems related to essay, you can contact me and you can, for the online viewers, you can contact me in the links provided in the description box. Thank you, good luck, and hope you do well in the exams.